Zettel für den langen Weg. 2 Flaschen Whisky für die Zeit. Und ich date gern habe, du bist dabei. Mario geht, fahrt mal weg, ist weit. Wann ich geh, ich werd dir fehlen, wann ich geh. Du sehst nicht, was ich mach, du sehst nicht, wie ich lach. Ich werd dir fehlen, du watsch sehen. Hab kriegt mein Zettel für den langen Weg. Du schönste, als mir finden kann. Es hat Mario und Dale ganz wunderbar. Hass ich dir den weißen Dank. Wann ich geh, ich werd dir fehlen, wann ich geh. Du sehst nicht, was ich mach, du sehst nicht, wie ich lach. Ich werd dir fehlen, du watch sehen.
Well. There we go. I was in the wrong screen format. Gute Abend, liebe Leid. We are back for another episode of PA Dutch Live. It is the May 2025 edition. Yes, I don't know where this year is going. It goes so fast, Gel. If this is your first time joining us, welcome to the show. If this is your 55th time joining us, welcome to the show. And boy, do we have a great show coming up for all of you tonight. If you're watching on the YouTube channel or if you're watching on Facebook, put in the comment section where you're joining us from. I always like to give shout outs to the people that are joining us every month. A lot of people know the spiel because there's comments flying in left and right here. So let's give some shout outs to those people that are joining us. We got Don Moyer joins us every month from Midlothian, Virginia. Don, tonight's episode you're going to really enjoy because we're going to be talking about some territory maybe down your way. Titus Keller is joining us from Michigan. The Michigan Kellers are joining us. Welcome. Krista Moyer from Midlothian, Virginia. We got the Moyers are all going to be here. This is great. Seth Moak joins us every month. Gute Dovet, Doug and Aliapa aus Durham, North Carolina. The South is winning, guys. We need to get where's our Pennsylvania people? Come on. Connie Evans from Cello, of everyone from South Carolina. Welcome, Connie. Welcome so much. Diana J. Pennsylvania Dutch here streaming in Beverly Hills, California. People, we're in Hollywood tonight. How about that? That's wonderful. Darren Lawyer. Greece Scott Leva Light. Well, Greece Scott Sutia. Darren. The Wismesser is joining us from Fleetwood there. Now we got Pennsylvania represented. That's great. Jamie Vowell from Belgrade, Montana. Holy cow. We are all over the place tonight. This is wonderful good, as we say. Bill House Dillsburg, Kudo, and Ali Upper House, York County checking in. We're going overseas now. Norman Young joins us every month, our good friend. Ja, ist Moena schwach und krank. Oh no. Hat ein Schnupftuch in der Hand, hilft doch Greg so kein Brutze. Du musst Joschen in Haus mit Brutze. Oh, Norman is sick, for those who don't understand Pelsish and Pennsylvania Dutch, and he's got his hanky in his hand because his nose is running, and he doesn't feel good. But this is going to be like medicine, Norman. We're going to make you feel better by the end of the show. Louisa Lupi joins us from Apache Junction, Arizona. Holy moly. Dolly Moyer from Fleetwood in the Haas again. Jim Beidler joining us from downtown beautiful Leesport, Pennsylvania, near my hometown. We got Luann Herb Connor coming from Manchester, Maryland. We got Tom Stokes joining us from Lobachstedel in Olidal. Oh, we know that area really well. We got Bachfeuer, Ed Cohn, Erster Bundesstaat. That means first state. Well, that would be Delaware, dear friends. We got Kathy Lowry from Ontario, Canada. We're north of the border. Hey, Kathy, this show is tariff-free, so you got no worries about that. We got Dana Damick, Mount Airy, near Ephrata. Why, Donavetta, we got that checking in too. And our good friend Brigitte Weinsteiger from Philly. That is great. Boy, do we have a great audience tonight. We are all over the place. We got across the ocean. We got out west on the other side of the Mississippi. Oh, and we got Sandy joining us from Quakertown. We got Southeast PA represented well as well. Boy, is it great to be back with you guys. And boy, do we have a wonderful, good show coming to you tonight. Our good friend Christopher Malone is in the green room just waiting. He's sipping champagne and getting pampered and all that stuff, waiting to come on screen. But before we bring him on, someone else. Oh, hold on. We got to give these people shout outs. Donna Kinna. From outside Adamstown in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania. I know it well. And Joan Barrell from Allentown. All right. We got Lehigh Valley checking in tonight as well. So what is on the docket tonight? Well, I kind of already referenced it, but we got Christopher Malone, who's going to be talking to us. A great topic. I'm really, really looking forward to what he has to say. And the images that we're going to be sharing with you guys tonight are just absolutely gorgeous. Can't wait to share them with you as well. But he's going to be talking about constructing identity along the Great Wagon Road. Really looking forward to that. But first, this month's episode, every month's episode is sponsored by an organization or business. And it just happens that this month's episode is brought to us by the good fine people at Historic Trappe. We'll be talking a lot about Historic Trappe. They've been on the show before, and we love to give them a shout out whenever we can. We're learning a lot more about Trappe and some of the things they got coming up throughout the year. Some awesome things to get on your calendar. And speaking of calendars, let's talk about some things coming at you in the greater Pennsylvania Dutch country here in the coming months. First off, as advertised last month's episode with Scott Blowbarrier Regan, we have his Hibbity Dribba Pennsylvania tour. This is a music tour that has a couple different shows coming up. He and a band from Germany will be performing at the Berks History Center in Reading on the 27th of June, at the Pennsylvania German Cultural Heritage Center in Kutztown on the 28th, and the Dillingersville Schoolhouse 79th Annual Pilgrimage in Zionsville. I'm going to talk more about that here in a second, on the 29th of June. And also on the 29th at the Schwenkfelder there in Pennsburg. So some great things coming up with that group. You can see him perform music, and the band that is coming all the way over from Germany to do a little bit of a tour here throughout Pennsylvania. They come from the same region of Germany that most of us Pennsylvania Dutch have ancestry from. So just giving you guys a heads up for that. Lynn is joining us from Naples, Florida. Vis-a-vis Steinberg, Bucks County. Hey, Lynn, thanks for joining us. We also have Ken Smith, Kenny, joining us from Kutztown, my friend. And Donna Kinney said, hey, my grandparents lived at 1 Main Street in Trappe. How about that? Oh, and David Hunsinger is joining us from Macunchie. Good to have you, Dave. Good to see you, my friend. All right, some other things for your calendar. What we just talked about, and I'm sorry if this is a little small, you can zoom in on your phone if you're watching this on your phone. June 28th is Pennsylvania Dutch Day. It was officially named that back in the 1970s by the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. And as many of you who watch this show and follow the channel know, our beloved Kutztown Folk Festival is not happening this year. And probably, well, I don't want to speculate, but I don't know if it'll ever be coming back. I'm just going to say that. We'll learn more about that next month, but next month's show. But to kind of take the place, or at least something to give back to the people that are so used to going to the folk festival, on the 28th of June, which this year happens to be a Saturday, at the Pennsylvania German Cultural Heritage Center at Kutztown University, run by our good friend Patrick Dunmoyer. They are going to be doing Pennsylvania German Day, Pennsylvania Dutch Day. It's going to be a day full of Pennsylvania Dutch music. They're going to bring back the traditional Writers Festival that we always did at the Folk Festival. The Liars Contest. There's going to be our good friend Dave Adams is going to be telling a tall tale in Pennsylvania Dutch and English, of course. There will be artisans there. There will be refreshments. There's limited seating, though. So if you're really interested in attending this event, you got to get on their website or shoot them a message and let them know. They're on all of the social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, and of course, they have a website as well. Just check them out. It's www.pagerman.org, and you can learn more about this event. But it's going to be a really great event. Sadly, I won't be able to attend it. But if you're in the area and you're free that day, it's going to be a really cool event. So definitely put that on your calendars. Another really cool event right around that time period, the very next day on Sunday, June 29th, as I mentioned, Scott de Blowbarrier is going to be playing there with his German band at the 79th annual Dillingersville pilgrimage back to this one-room schoolhouse. I apologize again for the font being so small. This is the image that they sent me to share with you guys. But I know that there's stuff online about this as well on Facebook. And if you go to Scott's Facebook page, I'm sure you can get more information about his performance there. And I guess it starts at 10:30. There's going to be an outdoor worship. And there's going to be lots of homemade baked goods. That's a reason alone to go to Zionsville, Pennsylvania, if you ask me. And one other thing for your Pennsylvania Dutch calendars, we got to give a shout out to our good friends at the Goshenhoppen Folk Festival. They will be having their annual folk festival on August 8th and 9th. You can learn more on about their festival on all of their sites, their website, and also their Facebook page and Instagram account. Just look for Goshenhoppen. It'll come up. We've had them on the show before, so we know that it's a great event. I highly, highly recommend it. Get that on your calendars if you can make it. Every month, we do a hee-haw style salute to some town in the greater Pennsylvania Dutch country. And this month, we give a salute to Schwanksville in Montgomery County, founded 1684. We're going way back. Schwanksville is pretty old, and a current population, according to the internet, of around 1,296. Hopefully that number didn't change since I looked it up. Hopefully it didn't go down. If anything, let's hope it went up. So a salute to the good people in Schwanksville, Montgomery County. All right, my dear friends, as promised, we got to bring our guest in tonight. We are very honored to have Christopher Malone, curator at Historic Trappe. He's going to talk more about his job here in a minute and all about this creating identity along the Great Wagon Road. What is that? We'll find out here in a minute. Let me bring Chris in. Chris, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here now on the other side of the comment section.
Yeah, on the other side of the comment. That's right. And wow, what a background you got there. That puts mine to shame. Holy moly.
Yeah, I figured it would be a nice thing for people to see the exhibition a little bit behind me.
That's awesome. Hey, before we get into the topic tonight, really quickly, give us a little bit about Christopher Malone. Do you have any Pennsylvania Dutch heritage or background, Chris?
I do. I have a Moravian background. My Moravians are mostly from Lidditz, Pennsylvania. They built the first house there called the Warden's House. It was owned by the Castler family, so that's who I descend from. And the Castlers also are related to the Sturgis family of the Pretzels. And one of the other people ran the Lindenhall boarding school there. And then I have got others that are in the sort of Saucon Valley, Lower Milford Township area. Brunners is the last name. Vassar is the last name. So yeah, quite a bit.
Yeah, the Pennsylvania Dutch roots run deep, it sounds. That's great. That's great to hear. So how long have you... So we did a show I don't know if that was last year, when we had Lisa Minardi on, the director at Historic Trappe, and she told us all about Trappe and the history behind it. But how long have you been at Trappe?
So I started as curator last June, so I'm coming up on a year here. But before that, I was on the board here for 3 years.
And what is your, I'll ask this too, so everyone knows that you know what you're talking about. What's your academic background?
So I first went into architecture. So I have an architecture degree and sort of tried the field and really was much more interested in the history of architecture. So I sort of pivoted and went into the museum field, first working at the Moravian Historical Society. And then I was accepted and went through the Winter program in American Material Culture and graduated there. And then I went to the Swedish Museum in Philadelphia for 3 years. And then I came to Historic Trappe.
Awesome. So I'm telling you, people, this guy knows what he's talking about when he's going to throw us some stuff here. So this, I'm going to pull in the presentation. You sent some beautiful imagery that we're going to be sharing with you guys tonight. So really quickly, let's give the elevator pitch so everyone knows what we're talking about. When we say, and we did have an episode, people, if you missed this quite a while ago with Ed Johnson, I believe, on the Great Wagon Road. But in case somebody missed that episode, Christopher, what is the Great Wagon Road? How could you describe that to somebody in like the elevator pitch?
Right. So as Pennsylvania Germans tended to come over, a lot of them came through the port in Philadelphia, and from Philadelphia they traveled this road, which is sort of a bunch of roads nowadays. You know, Route 30 is one of them, possibly 222, 422, etc. But you know, all of them being the Great Wagon Road out west, and then they certainly stopped at different valleys along the way, and then some planted roots there, and then others kept going, or several generations after that kept going. And that wagon road went pretty far out into Pennsylvania, through Maryland, West Virginia, Virginia, and then all the way down to Georgia.
Yeah. So when people always think, we think Pennsylvania Dutch, we think of, a lot of people tend to just think of that southeast corner of Pennsylvania, but as you just mentioned, and I think we're starting to kind of like get that history out more, that people understand that, we didn't just stay in this area. We eventually, as generations continued, we moved, and there was a large migration of Pennsylvania Dutch that would eventually make it down through the Shenandoah Valley and down into the Carolinas and as far south as Georgia, as you mentioned. So when you decided to put this exhibition together, I guess my first question before we talk about the objects is, did you guys have all of these objects in your current collection, or did you have to go out and find some of these things?
So we have a really great sort of cater of collectors that are associated with Historic Trappe. And so I would say 90% of what's on view in the exhibition is in private collections that we borrowed from collectors. And then a couple objects you'll see in the exhibition are from local museums like Ursinus College, Mennonite Heritage Center, etc. And so, which makes the exhibition so special because of most of this stuff you're seeing, you won't be able to see normally because it's in, private house.
Private click. So I guess one other question, kind of like work related, that before we start looking at the actual collection is, as a curator, for someone that doesn't understand what a curator does or how a curator puts something like this together, how do you put something like this together? I guess that's my question. So you got a bunch of people say, hey, I got this chest, or I got this book, or I got this piece of art. So how do you determine what we're going to show and how to tell that story?
Right. So a lot of it depends on space. We at Historic Trappe have somewhat limited space to put things in, but that certainly didn't stop us with this exhibition. We packed this room tightly with as many boxes as we possibly could, and Proctor and things like that. So we would go to people's houses looking for a specific object, knowing that they had it, and then we would come away with 4 more pieces that we felt we needed to take just in case to show off. And so. Yeah, space issues, representing the different areas well by picking out objects that are sort of the best of their kind. That's sort of our mantra here, is to show off what's, the excellent piece that represents that maker or that area, etc. And then, really to just tell that story through art, objects, and material culture.
Well, let's dive into this stuff because this stuff is just absolutely beautiful. And I'm just going to, you tell me when to click in advance.
Sure.
And walk us through this stuff, Chris.
So we came up with this exhibition because this was our 5th anniversary. The Center for Pennsylvania German Studies here at Historic Trappe began around 2019. And so for our 5th anniversary, we wanted to put this blockbuster exhibition together. And so we came up with this concept that, Pennsylvania Germans didn't just stay in southeastern Pennsylvania. And we knew a lot of collectors who were collecting things from our local region, which is this first region, the Perkiomen Valley. But we knew people who had things from Somerset County and also all the way down to Virginia. And so we decided to sort of focus on specific valleys that we knew that we could get pieces from, and then sort of tell that journey out there. And so this one that you're looking at is our own Perkiomen Valley here in Historic Trappe. This is our local area. And so we've got quite a few pieces. I'm showing each of you about 3 objects that we have on view, but there's many, many more related to each of those valleys that you'll see in the exhibition. So we have, for instance, this amazing Adam and Eve fractor by Durs Rudy Sr. It's locally made here in Skippack, which is right down the road from Historic Trappe in Montgomery County. It's a watercolor and ink paper fractor, and it's one of only a few that Durs Rudy did. He was a fractor artist that eventually moves up to Lehigh County, and his son Durs Rudy Jr. also does that. And that's a running theme you'll also see through this exhibition, that a lot of families did fractor, and so their sons followed in their footsteps. And then in the Hubner family, specifically in Montgomery County, one of the daughters, Susanna Hubner, follows in their same tracks. And so, this is a really graphically interesting piece. He did several of these Adam and Eves. And in fact, one just sort of showed up at our door a couple of weeks ago that was an unknown piece. And so, by doing this exhibition, it also reveals things that, are out there that people then see that they have, that are like, oh, I have one of those things after seeing it at the exhibition.
The colorization on that is really vibrant for as old as it is. So whoever had this has really taken care of it.
And you're going to see a lot of things. Most of the fractor here are all hung on the walls. They would have definitely really not done that. It would mostly in Bibles or in their chests, And so depending on how often it was taken out, that color will be vibrant or not. The chest of drawers at the bottom there is for a boy named Daniel Ice. And that's our Montgomery County piece. Really indicative of the area because of its sort of spattery-like texture on those 2 bottom drawers there. And we have several other Montgomery County pieces in here, specifically because we're in Montgomery County. But it's a great chest because it's got those bird trees on it. So, this is a flat version of the bird trees, but of course, other people have 3-dimensional bird trees made by local folk artists in the 19th and 20th centuries. And then it's got those, sort of barn star looking qualities is on them that you see both on the top and the bottom. And this is a really great piece to represent Montgomery County.
And for people that are just encountering this stuff for the first time or maybe don't know, could you briefly speak about a chest like this? What was the value of this for those families back in the 1700s?
Right. So a chest like this would have been made for both a boy and a girl. This is one of the reasons why we put this specific one on view, because it has a boy's name, and it's often associated that these are dower chests, but they're really just chests, as a sort of a locker for kids in that time period where they would put all their stuff probably at the end of their bed. And then when they would get married, they would take this chest with them, and it would hold basically all of their valuables. And most of these chests have locking mechanisms on. So, it was a way to have your name on something, to own a piece of property, but also to take it with you. And, it was not gendered like some people might think.
Okay.
And then we sort of cheated a little bit when we chose the Perkiomen Valley, because the box at the top is for a slide lid box for Elizabeth Stauffer, and it's made by John Drissel of Bucks County, so not in Perkiomen Valley, but we couldn't pass up the chance to show off John Drissel boxes. And so this is just one slide lid box with some nice delineated boxes on the inside there. So, it would have been used for smaller things. And a lot of his boxes were used for probably like candles or smaller objects. Although one box we have on view is a sort of writing desk that is quite larger than most of the others. And that's from the Mennonite Heritage Collection, and it's quite great because on the side of the box, and unlike a lot of objects in here, the artist signed it. So he signs his name, John Drissel, with his pen, and you can see it right there, which is sort of a Rosetta Stone for figuring out all the other pieces. Right. You probably will see more John Drissel boxes in this exhibition that have ever been together, in quite a while.
Wow. Okay. Well, let's move to the next valley.
Yeah. So then we focused on the Cocalico Valley of Lancaster County, Upper Berks, sort of near the Adamstown, Ephrata area. One of my favorites is this slide lid box from Berks County. It's sort of a group of boxes in this sort of darker black format. It's got another one of those amazing looking barn stars on there and tulips patterns. And you really can't see it in this picture, but where the little thumb piece is that you would pull the slide drawer out, there's this little zigzag pattern. And in our exhibition, there's a chest on view that has that same zigzag pattern. So we don't know who the artist is of this, but we know that there's a group of these objects. And the chest is one of the most greatest examples of what's called black unicorn chests from Berks County. And so you'll see that here in the exhibition. The dome top box there in the red ground is by what's called the Compass artist. So another theme throughout this exhibition is that some of these people are still unknown. And so you kind of give them monikers like the Compass artist or the Bucher box artist that you don't know who they are, but something about their technique or something gives them a name. And so the Compass artist is called the Compass artist because they used a compass on the box to inscribe it with lines. And then they would have used that then to paint these amazing flowers and things on the box. They're quite a prolific artist. We think they were working in the Cocalico Valley, although, Compass artist boxes are found throughout Lancaster County and Berks County and things like that. And they made different boxes of all sizes. A lot of them are in this dome top shape, but other ones are slide lid boxes or little small ones that are only about this big. And so we've got a couple of those on view. And then the box next to it, the little yellow box, is a small chest for a man named Johannes Zimmermann. And it's made by Jonas Weber. And these are called Weber boxes after his last name. And he was mostly making these tiny boxes for his neighbors or his family. So we have one on view for his sister, Maria Weber. But, when you go into a lot of stores nowadays that sort of showcase or sell like folk art made today, you see a lot of these types of boxes with these little houses and trees and tulips on them. And they're all definitely taken off of Weber's boxes here. He was working in East Earl Township, Lancaster County. And this one's amazing because it's got little turned feet on it. Most of them are sort of squared out feet. And it's got even a small little till, which what are you storing in a till that small? I don't know. But we've got a bunch of these made. And he has some that are, as small as an inch or 2 inches wide. all the way up to this size. Yeah, so he was quite prolific. And we know that he was working near his father. His father's day book has a lot of him selling these for, cents on the dollar. So,
Yeah, I was going to ask that question in your research. Like, what were these? I mean, we look at them now, and to us, they're priceless. 300, 250 years later. But what would something like this have cost back in the day? Was this something that the average farm family could afford?
Yeah, it depends. I was just asked this question the other day because somebody said, that they have strong Pennsylvania German roots, but none of their family has any boxes like this.
I'm an example of that too. Yeah.
I sort of answered that question by saying, it's possible that they did, but a lot of these things survived because they were quote unquote forgotten. Fractor tend to pop up because they put them away and, forgot about them. Whereas, a lot of things were discarded if they didn't really want them by the end of the 19th century. So it's possible, what's remaining of these boxes were ubiquitous at the time and people did own them. They weren't terribly expensive, although, painted furniture also wasn't cheap either. Yeah. But I would sort of ascribe that to the fact that, they were probably put away. Some of these small boxes could have put into the bigger boxes and then, forgotten about. And we'll come across that when we get to the Shenandoah Valley. The one piece there was forgotten about, which is why it's in such great condition.
Okay. Well, let's go Berks County, Tulpehocken.
Yeah, so Tulpehocken, Berks County, sort of a more eastern Lebanon county at the same time. The birth and baptismal fracture there for Johannes Fasnacht Jr. is by Heinrich Otto. He's one of the most famous fracture artists out there. And we have a couple of Heinrich Ottos hanging on the wall. And then we have a whole bunch of other ones by his sons, Daniel and Jacob, and I can't remember the other one's name. But they worked in the East Earl Township, Lancaster County for a while, and then the Ottos eventually then move out to Center County, Pennsylvania, and do a lot of fracture there. And one of the Otto sons also does furniture, and so there's an actual chest that is out there with his work on it, and we were able to identify that it was his work because of the fracture he made. So we can look at his penmanship on the fracture, and it's very similar to what's on the chest there. So a lot of the sons eventually took the motifs that you're seeing on the father's work here. So like the parrots, for instance, appear on all of the sons' fracture. And a lot of people don't know this, but parrots were indigenous to Pennsylvania in the 18th century. There was a North Carolina parakeet roaming around, but it was unfortunately shot out of existence by farmers because it was quite annoying at the time. But it's why you see parrots on all kinds of German, they weren't looking to things like the Caribbean to figure out what these birds look like. They had them around here.
Yeah, and as a quick side note, linguistically, in Pennsylvania Dutch, we do have the word for parrot, papagai, and we use that when you can refer to somebody that talks a lot or is loud. You can call them a papagai. And people always think, like, why would the Pennsylvania Dutch in the 1700s in Pennsylvania be talking about parrots? And you helped me remember that we do have that word and that we do use it and why it shows up in our art. Yeah, right, exactly.
Right. Yep. The chest on the bottom there's a chest for Katharina Lebenstein, and that's attributed to another artist who we don't know their name, the embroidery artist. And they're called that because the two sort of tombstone-like things aside of the heart have embroidery-like painting on them. There's pomegranates represented there and other different motifs. This chest is particularly interesting to us because it would have been from the Milbach area. There is a famous chest that exists out there that was in the Milbach house there in Milbach. And it belonged to the Miller family, and it features camels on it. And so it's one of the rarest chests out there. They probably would have not known what camels looked like, except maybe in print culture at that time period. But this chest here, the Lebensteins live right next to their house. And so this would have been a neighbor of that chest. And so we were able to, one of our board members actually was able to acquire this piece, and he basically delivered it right there to us for the exhibition opening. And so it wasn't even a piece we intended to show off, but we were able to do that and have this on view. And this is also a great piece to talk about, like, conservation efforts, because at some point somebody painted over everything except the heart on this chest. And so luckily, though, the paint was underneath it. And so when conservation efforts revealed both of those tombstones on the side there eventually.
That's great. That's great.
Yeah. And we actually, when you come, you'll see a picture of the camel chest right near this one to sort of compare that these two live next to each other. Okay. One of my favorite artists who sort of traveled around Pennsylvania was Jacob Mantell. These portraits here are of John and Katarina Bickel. They lived in Jonestown, right near Schaefferstown in Lebanon County. What I always like to say about this painting, Mantell's quite a prolific artist. He does a lot of work first in Baltimore and then Schaefferstown area, and then he eventually moves to Indiana, New Harmony. And this is sort of the time period when he gets to doing portraits at this quarter length, where people are sort of both like, sort of side view of them. But it's showing that, Pennsylvania Germans at the time, or the Pennsylvania Dutch, weren't that sort of country bumpkin that a lot of people sort of ascribe to them. Benjamin Franklin talks about them like that, unfortunately. Yeah. But, the Bickles, were doing quite well for themselves. They're dressed in these really, high fashion pieces. They have these amazing federal period looking glasses behind them on the wall. But they're also sort of portraying themselves as Pennsylvania Germans, because the wall, like behind them, is probably stenciled, which you can see in houses like the Rex House, for instance, has stenciling on the wall. The sort of the wall part under the chair rail there is also painted, and they're sitting on a carpet that, it could be a hooked rug, it could be an oilcloth, etc. So the interior is sort of a mix of both, and that's what really gets shown off in this portrait from the Tulpehocken Valley.
All right. Oh, the Mahantango.
Yeah. So we were really excited to be able to show off Mahantango Valley in this exhibition. This Mahantango chest of drawers that you're seeing there has never, ever, ever been on view before. It has been in the Mahantango, it has been in the family, the Knorr family, since it was made in the Mahantango Valley family in 1829. And they've had it in their house, when they moved ever since. And so it's never been in any other museum, and it features the most paint of any Mahantango Valley furniture. It's got the angels, it's got the praying children, it's got the birds, it's got more colors than anyone. So it's got the dark greens, it's got the dark reds, it's got the salmon. There's salmon on the entire top there. And it's one of the earliest pieces at 1829, because most of them were made after 1830. This is purported to have been made by Johannes Meyer, or John Mayer, which is interesting. That's what he gets labeled as later. There's sort of more research needs to be done whether or not he did the painting or not, but he certainly was the cabinet maker there making those pieces. But what sets this one apart is that woman that you could see on the side there. And no other piece has that woman. And she's featured on both sides, holding one tulip on one side and two tulips on another. And so this is probably one of the most fantastic pieces of Mahantango furniture. And we were super lucky to be able to, the first museum to ever show it off.
How'd you make that happen? Did somebody know that this family had it and you reached out?
So we were contacted by somebody who told us that, they were looking to, appraise it in the past. And so somebody knew that they had it, and he said, if you wanted to contact them, maybe they would allow you to borrow it. And they were, super excited for us to borrow it. And so, it's here to look at when you guys come.
It's breathtaking. It's breathtakingly beautiful. It is unbelievably
and all these colors were only really achieved because of this 1818 invention of chrome yellow. And so all those greens and blues and things were, achievable because of that really bright yellow they used on these pieces here. Gorgeous. And Mahantango is a great sort of representation of different motifs like the birds and things like that moving from region to region. So the Knorr family, for instance, really is growing up outside of Reading in the Wilmersdorf area, and also in the there's a church I can't think of right outside of Reading, and eventually they move out to Mahantango Valley, so bringing those same motifs with them.
Okay. The
Meyer family is really neighbors to the Steely family, and so this cutwork here is by Isaac Faust Steely. And it's made for John Mayer, or Johannes Meyer, who's the furniture maker behind this piece next to it. We were really excited because we were going to borrow we were going to borrow another one, which is on view here for Annemeyer, so probably John's daughter. And then we walked into a collector's house and they had this one. And so we were like, oh, we have to borrow both.
Yeah, it's got the American flag on it. I mean, that's early, right? Yeah, 1844.
Yeah. And this is a form of Scherenschritte. It's a nice cut work, and both of them have the same sort of features on them: an eagle, American flag, the other birds, etc. They're both dated. One is 1844 and one is 1841. More research needs to be done, like what if the dates have any significance. You can't really figure that out. But Steele was a reform minister, itinerant in what I love to say is rough and ready Pennsylvania, up there in the Monontago Valley. And the two families eventually intermarried. This Jarrett Steele, his son, marries, I think, Elizabeth Meyer. And they're possibly behind another set of decorated boxes, these little turned cups that are similar to Joseph Lane's pieces that you see outside of Lidditz, Pennsylvania.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, and just so people would know, I mean, maybe people aren't familiar, where is Brothers Valley?
Right. So before I did this exhibition, I really had not heard of Brothers Valley, and I had not heard of the objects that came out of it. It's in Somerset County, Pennsylvania. If you're taking the turnpike out there, it's probably like the first valley you enter when you get into Somerset County there. It's mostly settled earlier by a lot of Dunkards and Amish and Mennonites. And so it's quite interesting that the boxes and furniture to come out of this valley are like very colorful, because often we associate them with very plain nowadays. But, you know, their pieces that are coming out of them are, you know, quite interesting and very geometric, almost modern art looking, you know, for these pieces. And there's quite a collection of them. There's smaller boxes. You'll see an amazing hanging cupboard here. It's probably the only hanging cupboard by this group. Also has the same designs on them, these sort of stylized, the tulip leaves on them. And then we do know the Frachte artist. This is Johann Heinrich Schumacher, who did these. We have two of these, his Frachte on view here. They don't think they're the same artist, so they don't know who the boxes are made by yet, although there is somebody out in Somerset County doing research on this group. But we do know the Frachte artist, Schumacher, and he was actually living in Lehigh County for quite a while, and then eventually moves out there to the Brothers Valley. And he shares a name with another Frachte artist, a Schumacher, who was a quote-unquote fake Lutheran pastor who does a lot of Frachte at the time. But there's very similar motifs on both of their work, and they both were working in that sort of Lehigh County area earlier. And so even out in Somerset County, you're finding, you know, Pennsylvania German decorated pieces and people that were coming from this region all the way out there.
Okay. And now let's go outside of Pennsylvania a little bit. Shenandoah Valley.
Yeah. So we could not pass up the opportunity to show off these two pieces. Fortunately for us, we know the collector who has these. And when people walk into the gallery, most of the time they're like quite shocked that we have this piece hanging on the wall. This is the hanging cupboard made for Jacob Strickler by Johannes Spittler. So it's colloquially known as the Spittler hanging cupboard. This is the piece I talked about earlier that is really in great condition because it was lost for such a long time. In the Strickler household, it was put in a basement sort of staircase or closet and forgotten there for quite a long time. And so the paint colors are really great. And eventually was found and went to auction, and it's been in a collection ever since. But it's really been only on view for maybe twice before this, and one of them was at the Winterthur Museum a while back, maybe 11 years ago. So most people are like shocked and stunned we have this because it's quite famous in the collecting world. Spittler and Strickler both went down to the Shenandoah Valley. Their families sort of settled in that area around the little town of Massanutten, and which is Page County, Virginia now. And they lived next to each other. So Spittler made this piece for his neighbor, Jacob Strickler. And then the chest that you see next to it for Anne Rothgeb was made for Jacob Strickler's wife. And so if you can't really read the text there, but on it, it has Spittler's initials and it has the number 70. So, possibly that it's the number 70th chest that he made. But they're both working in this very similar color palette, black, blue, and red. And even Jacob Strickler's Proctor, because he was a Proctor artist, has these similar colors on them. And so there's sort of speculation about whether or not Strickler was doing the painting on these chests and Spittler was making the pieces. But there is research coming out on that that will actually feature at a symposium that we're having here at Historic Trappe at the end of the month. And so we sort of ended,
Dolly had a quick question. What items were typically kept in these boxes and chests by people?
Right. Probably a lot of linens and things like that. This chest that is for Anne Rothgeb here, for instance, when you open it up, there are two iron nails that are nailed into the top lid. And that would have been where you would have hung a string and you would have had things like linens or socks or things like that would have been there. You could have kept documents, especially in the tills that were in there, those little drawers. And a lot of tills had secret drawers that you would pull up, and so you could hide valuables in them. And because they locked, you could do that as well. But because that you find them, in various rooms in the houses, but oftentimes in the bedrooms. So if you didn't have a trunk, for instance, a big closet, you could often use these chests for those kinds of things.
And we do get, and you'd mentioned this before, there's this idea out there that they were always like dowry chests and things like this. And right. I mean, there were ones that were for a daughter that took into their first home when they got married, absolutely, or a newly married couple would have a chest like this. Right. And I know the Schwenkfelders have some that, examples of ones that were brought over from Germany when they immigrated. Everything they could fit in that chest is what they brought with them to America.
Right.
So I think this chest culture, and I'm not going to purport to know anything about it, but I know the fact that, for a lot of Pennsylvania Dutch families, the idea of having some kind of like a cedar chest or a blanket chest was always a really important piece of furniture way back in history. But even when I was a kid growing up and we'd go visit like friends of my grandparents, they always had some kind of a blanket chest of some kind.
Right.
Now they weren't as decorated as these, of course, but that was an important piece of furniture. I think that's kind of like been passed down through our DNA or something that these hold value,
Right. And a lot of these chests were passed down over the years because they were so utilitarian and usable. And unfortunately for a lot of them, they were often painted over. Styles change and people, didn't like the, painting style. And so, some were irreplaceably painted over, but, others can be restored to what they were.
That's great. Unbelievable.
Yeah, so we
real quick before we go, before you go on into the, because Chris put together a whole bunch of things that are coming up at Trappe. We definitely want to talk about this, but I just had a couple final questions for you about after working on this and putting this exhibit together. So you've spent a lot of your professional career working with textiles and with material culture, but when you put this exhibit together for you personally, now looking back on it, what'd you learn from it? What did you learn from it?
I think I learned a lot about what motifs were most prevalent in certain areas, whether people used parrots or birds or, what tulips were available at the time and, what colors, for instance, were most popular in different areas. And then, sort of tracing those families and where they were taking these things. And then also the fact that some people were incorporating Pennsylvania German decorative arts into their homes that weren't Pennsylvania German. So there's Proctor that we have in the room that are in English, made for English-speaking people, but they were looking to their neighbors who were consuming this stuff and buying it and using it too, even if that wasn't their own culture. But it's a culture that they were certainly surrounded by.
So when you've been in the room and you've had visitors come in, what are some of the things that people are saying to you? Is it shock that this stuff exists, or what's the general take from the average person walking in and looking at this exhibit?
I think it's shock that Historic Trappe has this stuff on view. It struck which pieces we have, because a lot of times people have said, oh, I've only seen this in a museum or in a newspaper article, or I only saw this in a magazine in the past. So it's great to see it in person finally, because, you know, lots of it's never, you know, it's going to be in a private home, so people can't really see it. And also how much we have on view and how well it fits into the gallery, you know, and, you know, you're not coming in and you're only seeing like 5 pieces and leaving. You're probably seeing 60 plus pieces between boxes and Fractor.
Well, Chris, has been wonderful to put together a bunch of things, because Historic Trappe is more than just this exhibit, that's for sure. And we know that from Lisa's show a couple shows ago. Oh, here real quick, John Kin says, our relatives as well as ourselves have always had linen chests, hope chests, as some people call them, for young women, who were very popular when I was growing up as well. So yeah, John, I agree that I was used to hearing those types of words being used too. We have a hope chest like that, or a blanket chest at the foot of our bed in our house here. Sadly, it's not as fancy decorated as the ones we looked at tonight. I wish it was. I'm super jealous of some of those. But anyway, yeah, thanks for sharing that, John. So what do you got coming up at Trappe that would you love to get people to get on their calendars and come see you guys? You talk to us.
I mean, we've got like an abundance of programming coming up.
Do.
Sort of just we just hired a new programs manager, so she sort of hit the ground running and come up with all kinds of new things. So one of them is our hearth cooking workshops. We have, as one of our buildings here at Historic Trappe, we have what's called the Speaker's House. That's the home of Frederick Muhlenberg, the first Speaker of the United States House of Representatives. And that's currently being undergoing restoration. But we finished the Speaker's House kitchen, and so that allows us to do hearth cooking workshops. And so we've got 2 coming up, May 24th and June 14th. And you can find all the things I'm going to talk about on our website for registration, etc. So along with this exhibition, we've decided to do a symposium, and both I and Lisa, who work for Historic Trappe, also work for a publication called Americana Insights. And it's a publication that highlights different Americana and folk art, and through different articles and scholarly essays. And it's a publication that gets released once a year. And so last year's publication featured, like, you know, an article about Charles Hoffman, the almshouse painter, which is the article that I did. But we've decided to pair up with Americana Insights and do a symposium on the Valley Culture exhibition. And so through May 30th through June 1st, we'll have a 3-day weekend filled with talks and tours and all kinds of stuff like that.
And the current exhibit that we saw the examples from tonight, how long is that going to be on view for people to come by and see?
Yeah, it'll be open through August 17th.
Okay, people, there you go.
We've got a nice Men of the House tours on June 14th, and special for Father's Day, where we'll highlight both Peter and Henry Muhlenberg in the Muhlenberg house. We've made a catalog for this exhibition. So one of the things that we sort of know about our followers here at Historic Trappe, many of whom are collectors, they sort of want a record of things that we do. And so one of them was to produce a Valley Culture catalog. So we produced the catalog here, which produces, you know, amazing pictures of all those pieces of furniture and objects that are in this room. And that's available at our store and on historictrappe.org. I'm doing tours of the exhibition, sort of special tours, going inside some of the boxes and opening things for people that they don't normally get to do. And we have one more on August 13th at 6 p.m.
Okay.
We received a recent gift of over 450 pieces of American pewter. And many of the pieces, about 90 of them, are made in Pennsylvania, and a good amount. So all the pieces you're seeing in this picture here were made by Pennsylvania Germans, particularly really amazing makers like William Will. And so we'll be putting an exhibition about this pewter here in the same gallery, and that'll go from August 29th through October 26th.
That is something that I think most people would not even know that the Pennsylvania Dutch did.
Right.
You know, like making pewter. I mean,
right.
We might have to have you back on in the fall.
Yeah.
Say again?
The German pieces are very distinctive too, compared to like the English pewter. So, you know, it's quite remarkable.
Okay. We might have to have you on in the fall to talk to us about that, because I know nothing about pewter. And I'm kind of curious now.
And then after that, we're going to do a major exhibition that's been in the works for probably 5 or 6 years on Pennsylvania German redware, from Hubner to Menninger. And it features potters in Bucks, Montgomery, and Berks counties, and then some potters sort of outside of those purviews. This will open in November of this year and go through early next year. So the Americana Insights volume that comes out every year will be the catalog to this. So instead of doing a smaller catalog, it'll be a whole book. And so Lisa and I and several other people have been writing essays on these potters. And there's a lot of new information that's been revealed since we've been writing these. And some of them will certainly rewrite catalog records on a lot of these potters. So look for that coming up.
I definitely want to have you and Lisa on in the future once this show is up, because so many Pennsylvania Dutch are familiar with redware. It's so iconic, part of our culture. But to know some of the history behind it, I think would be fascinating, and to see some of this stuff. So I definitely want to have you guys on when the time comes, when that is up, for sure.
We do kids programming too. We're doing a Kids Dig History at the Speaker's House. We've done a lot of archaeological work there. And so there's several Saturdays that have where you can bring your kids and they can dig and find awesome artifacts and learn about what's in the ground, basically.
That's great.
Our Tavern Night, which happens every year in September this year, the theme is obviously pewter, because we'll have the pewter exhibition opening. And so, we were featuring some of the neat pewter mugs there that we got in the collection.
I'm sure the drinks taste different coming out of pewter than what you're probably used to.
And then, of course, we collaborate with other Pennsylvania German sites around here. So the Schwenkfelder, Mennonite Heritage Center, Peter Wentz Farmstead, etc. And we have a huge Christmas display from November 28th through January 4th. We've got a candlelight Christmas that we have usually the first week in December. And that's sort of the same weekend that you can sort of hop around to all the different sites and see what's going on at the Schwenkfelder, etc. And then we do our evening candlelights. But throughout the entire month or month and a half, we also have amazing Christmas displays here. So things like feather tree displays, Noah's Ark displays. This year we might do one on Springerly cookies, etc. So it's a great time to be at Historic Trappe. And we also fully stock our gift shop with amazing locally made Pennsylvania German stuff.
Well, Christopher, there's a lot. People check out Historic Trappe's website, of course, and all their social. They have great stuff on social media, on Facebook and on Instagram, for sure. Those two, I follow them on both of those platforms. You got a busy year ahead of you guys, but being busy is good. It's better than the opposite, right? I can't thank you guys for the history that you're telling and continuing to tell our story, whether it's through chests or the Muhlenberg family, or what all the things that you guys do down there at Trappe. And I just want to thank you so much for the work that you do, and then being willing to come on the show and tell us about all these things and share this amazing art and the stories behind them. So Chris, I really appreciate you coming on the show and sharing all this with you. And I'll continue to blast all of the Trappe stuff on my social media so that we can get people down there for some of these awesome events. Anything you'd like to leave anybody with, your last words of wisdom, Mr. Malone?
Yeah, just keep an eye on what we're doing. We've got like tons going on, and it's deeply rooted in the history of the Pennsylvania Germans right here in Trappe, PA. So we're super small, but we're doing huge things.
No, they absolutely are, people. And if you start following them online, you'll see exactly what we're saying here. Absolutely. Well, thanks again, Chris, for coming on so much. I'm gonna have you on again in the future, and tell Lisa we're looking forward to having her back on the show as well. Maybe you guys tag team or something. That'd be a really great show as well. Whatever in the future, but really appreciate it. I'll be making it down to Trappe at some point as soon as I can, and we'll hopefully we'll be able to share something out of a pewter cup together. How's that sound?
All right. Thank you, everybody.
Take care, Chris. How wonderful, people, was that? That dude knows his stuff, and it's all available through Historic Trappe. You can go to historictrappe.org. Their website, historictrappe.org, and please give them a like and a follow if you're on Instagram or on Facebook. I don't know if they're on TikTok and X, but definitely you can learn more about them through their website and through those two social media platforms. Real quick, I want to give some shout outs. Tori G says, hello, Herr Mainford. Tori's a senior in my German program, about to graduate in less than a month. She's also going to Germany with this summer. Hey, Tori, good to hear from you. Ken Smith says, better in tin. Ken's a tinsmith, so I get it, Ken. I get it. John says, very interesting program. Thank you both so much. We appreciate hearing that, John. And Jim Byler says, Historic Trappe punches way above its weight. I agree, Jim. I agree. So every month, I like to bring you something Pennsylvania Dutch language related, a poem. And this month, I chose, and I've highlighted a lot of Louise Weitzel's poetry over the years for a couple of reasons. One, a female poet. I mean, often when we look at Pennsylvania Dutch literature, it is heavily male dominated, but there were women that were writing in the dialect too. Louisa has a treasure trove of poetry. She lived from 1862 to 1934, and it is May, spring. And, there's a common tradition among the Pennsylvania Dutch. And if you grew up like I did, the spring cleaning. And mom and grandmom, it was time to clean the house, get all that winter dirt and dust out, and you had to clean the house, and you opened the windows and get that fresh air in and that spring cleaning. So this is her poem as Hausgebutz, which means the house cleaning. You got the Pennsylvania Dutch on the left-hand side, the English on the right. You can decide whichever one you want to follow, but I'm going to read the Pennsylvania Dutch down the left-hand side. So here we go. Es Hausgebutz from Louisa A. Weitzel. Im Frühjahr und im Herbst gibt es ein übeli Zeit, wo all die Weibsleid ächte, als wäre sie net gescheit. Sie rase und sie dobe, sie renne hier und her. Es gibt ein mächtig Butze, ein Schrubber und Gekehr. Ist ein arges Wesen, doch ist es bald vorbei. No gibt es wieder Friede und alles guckt wie nei. So great. I can still remember my mom was big on spring cleaning, man. When spring cleaning came around, there was no sitting around. You were helping. I'll tell you that. And I'm sure many of you watching the show can shake your head in agreement. Yep, that's what it was like with my mom and my grandmom too. I would imagine so. So there's your poem for this evening. Show's running a little long, so we're going to skip over our music selection. That's okay. I post a lot of music on the Facebook page and on the Instagram. You can check it out there. I was going to highlight our good friend Keith Brintzenhoff. I'll highlight him next month. No issues. And speaking of which, as we move here towards the end, just a couple things. Would you like to get some Pennsylvania Dutch merch, some cool shirts or magnets or stickers for on your car or on your refrigerator that have Pennsylvania Dutch themed motifs on them? I check out our website, zazzle.com/PA-Dutch101. We have tons of different stuff there. I advertise it every week. We got coffee cups that say Ich bin Deutsch. Do you have a daughter or a granddaughter in your family or a little niece, and you want to get her a shirt that says PA Dutch Mädel, which means Pennsylvania Dutch girl? Come on. How sweet would that be? You see your 10-year-old granddaughter or your 10-year-old daughter walking around with a PA Dutch girl shirt, but in PA Dutch Mädel. You can get that kind. Those are the kinds of things we have. Of course, we have other things there. We have stickers, we have magnets, we have shirts, sweatshirts, tons of different things. I have a Christmas card there now that you can get your Christmas cards that say Halleluja Christdog, Merry Christmas on them in Pennsylvania Dutch, all these types of things. So just check out PA Dutch, zazzle.com/PA-Dutch101. Couple other things here real quick. Luann says road trip to Trappe. It's not that hard to get to. It's worth the trip. And Connie says, Chris is a wealth of information. Thank you. He sure is. I agree, Connie. If you would like to financially support what we do here on the channel, you have two ways of doing that. If you so choose, you can buy me a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/Doug Mainford, or you can become a monthly patron at our Patreon account. Just go to patreon.com/PA-Dutch101, where you can sign up for as little as $1 a month, and all money raised through the website or through these, through Buy Me a Coffee and through Patreon, go to the upkeep of the channel, putting gas in the Subaru so I can get to different events, buying new lenses for the cameras, all that kind of stuff. Nothing crazy. Not buying jets or anything like that. If anybody wants to buy me a jet, I'll take it. I'll take it. And I want to give a shout out to these people who have recently unterstützt us, supported us. That's Gary and Deanna Weaver, Glenn Ritter, Nathan Seeger, Seth Moak, Devin Miller, Norman Jung, Grundsalage number 10, Norman Berger, David Hunsinger, Dolly Moyer, Gary Johansson, Gail Spilsbury, and Derek Deeds. Gross dunk for all of your financial help over the past couple months and days. Here it says, Darren Lawyer says, very, very nice, educational and informative. Well, thanks, Darren. I appreciate that you appreciated our show. Mark your calendars, dear friends, because I got June's Pennsylvania Dutch Live already on the calendar, and it is June 18th, Wednesday, June 18th, 2025 at 6 p.m. So I mentioned the Pennsylvania German Day that's coming up on the 28th of June in Kutztown. Well, we're going to have the director of the Pennsylvania German Cultural Heritage Center, my good friend, Patrick Dunmoyer, on to tell us all about that festival. What things can you get to see or learn about? What will be available to purchase, to eat? So he is putting the whole thing together. So he is the man. So we're going to have him on the 18th of June to talk all about the festival so that you guys can definitely say to yourself, I want to go to that on the 28th. So put both of these things on your calendars. PA Dutch Live on the 18th, and then the Pennsylvania German Day in Kutztown on the 28th. It has been another great month that has flown by. I cannot thank all of you enough for your continued support of all of the work that we're doing here at PA Dutch 101, whether it's your comments on Facebook, your comments on Instagram, the likes, the thumbs up, the clicks, the support we're getting on the YouTube channel with all of the subscriptions that we're getting from people and just the positive comments. They really mean a lot. And it helps me continue to put my pants on every morning and say, what Pennsylvania Dutch thing could I do today to get out there to the people? And I'm going to keep doing that as long as I can. And I'm going to love your continued support. I love that you take time out of your busy schedules to come sit with me 1 hour a month here at PA Dutch Live. And if you missed it, of course, anytime, all the shows and all the past shows are archived on our YouTube channel. So we mentioned the show with Lisa Minardi. We mentioned our previous show about the Wagon Road with Ed Johnson. Those are all on our YouTube channel. You can just go into the live section and all of the shows and all of their descriptions. And you can also check out more on my website, padutch101.com, which in the very near future, I'm going to have a really big announcement about our website, but I'm going to hold that back. I'm going to just wet your whistle a little bit, get you a little excited about it. And then when the time comes, it's going to be bam. And you're going to be like, oh my God, that's great, Doug. But we'll keep it just something's coming. Something's coming. That's all we're going to say. Till next month, dear friends, I hope that you stay well. Get out and go to one of these events coming up. It's the summer. Summer's right around the corner. For those of you that have family members that are graduating high school or graduating college, I just want to say congratulations. That's a big step, and you've done something big in life, and now you're moving on to something bigger and better. And for those of you that don't have anybody graduating high school or college, that's okay too. Practice your Pennsylvania Dutch. Learn a new word, learn a new phrase every Friday on the YouTube channel, Pennsylvania Dutch Word of the Week. Build that vocabulary. Speak some Pennsylvania Dutch. Go out and tell our story. We have a great, rich, wonderful story to tell the world. Do that. Help me spread the Pennsylvania Dutch gospel. Till next month, dear friends, I can't wait to be with you again because it'll be here before you know it. As you know, in Pennsylvania Dutch, we don't say goodbye. We just say, Mach's gut.
Mach's gut zu dir, mach's gut zu dir, mach's gut zu dir für now. Unsere Zeit ist all und so es ist, mach's gut für now. Hoff wieder mit dir zu sein, hoff du bringst zurück ein Freund. Mach's gut zu dir, mach's gut zu dir, mach's gut zu dir für now. Unsere Zeit ist all und so es ist, mach's gut für now. Hoff wieder mit dir zu sein, hoff du bringst zurück ein Freund. Und so mach's gut, lieber Freund, mach's gut.